Okay, we're now ready to talk about the thalamus. The three things that we're going to talk about with the thalamus are firstly its position, secondly its structure, and lastly its function. The first thing that we need to know about the thalamus is that the thalamus lies immediately above the midbrain, which you can see in this picture here. So that's the thalamus here, those two egg-like structures there, and they lie immediately above the midbrain. Second thing that you need to know about the position is that around its posterior end, the thalamus has been cut here, around the posterior end of the thalamus you've got two structures which wind around it. You've got the tail of the caudate nucleus, which has also been cut here, and you've also got the fornices, which are these structures here. And both these structures, the caudate nucleus and the fornices, wind around the back of the thalamus, and you need to remember that. The final thing that we need to know in terms of the position of the thalamus is its relationship to the ventricles. Now the ventricles are basically fluid-filled cavities within the cerebral hemispheres. If you're looking through a CT, you can identify where the thalamus is by identifying the ventricles. So what you do first is you try and scroll through the images when you're looking in a coronal plane until you get this Mercedes-Benz sign. The inferior ventricle in this Mercedes-Benz sign, upside down Mercedes-Benz sign I should say, is the third ventricle, and the thalamus lies immediately either side of the third ventricle. So it's these grey masses of tissue here, so that's the thalamus there. The other thing to note in this picture is that the thalamus lies in fact in the floor of the lateral ventricle. There's a lateral ventricle labelled there. The structure of the thalamus is quite complex and is actually the subject of highly advanced study in neuroanatomy, but the basic thing that you have to understand with the thalamus is, number one, it's shaped in the form of an egg. Number two, the nuclei can be separated into different groups, and it's usually separated by lamina of connective tissue, which is shown here. Nuclei or cell bodies within the thalamus are located mainly in dorsal and ventral groups, and also within the lamina themselves, and these are the intralaminar nuclei, which haven't been labelled. The ventral and dorsal groups can be subdivided themselves into a huge variety of groups, and it's best not to bother remembering all of them. And rather to focus on the ones that you need, that are vital, like in terms of functional systems. And we'll do this next when we consider the function. So the first thing that we need to consider with the function is the thalamus basically functions in two important systems. So it functions as a sensory station in the relay of sensory pathways to the cerebral cortex, and it also functions as a relay center for motor pathways, both cortical and extracortical. In terms of the sensory input, there's a number of nuclei within the thalamus which are kind of important. I don't know how important they are for exams, but anyway, I'll just name them. So pain and general sensation from the body goes to the ventro-posterior lateral nucleus, or VPL nucleus. Pain from the face goes to the ventro-posterior medial nucleus, or the VPM nucleus. Sound goes to the medial geniculate body, or nucleus, and light, or visual information, travels via the lateral geniculate nucleus. And that's it for the thalamus.